the 27th of May 2024. This is Newsfirst Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Bringing you the news for the Newsfirst team tonight. I am Jayama Ratnayaka.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara, and here are your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst Headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance was awarded the Best Finance Company for the third consecutive year.
Dilit, Vimal, Gammampila, Vasudeva and other political factions form new political alliance. Another alliance launched by the Global Sri Lankan Forum. Nama Rajapaksa blames internal plots for Rajapaksa government's fall. Grama Niladaris recommence trade union action. University non-academic strike continues. Teachers warn of possible trade union action. Fishermen warned to avoid sailing into the Bay of Bengal and the Arab Sea. Sri Lanka hunts for man suspected of handling 4 ISIS members in India.
Newsfirst Headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance was awarded the Best Finance Company for the third consecutive year.
On tonight's top story, Sri Lanka's political landscape is abuzz with anticipation. Signs point to an imminent election, but the question remains, is it the presidential election or the general election that looms large? At the same time, new alliances are also taking shape.
Leader of the Maldivian Janata Paksha, entrepreneur Dilit Jayavira, inked a policy agreement with several political groups on Monday the 27th morning in Colombo to launch the Sarva Jana Balaya.
The signing of the policy agreement of the new political alliance, Sarva Jana Balaya, took place in Colombo. MP Vimal Veeravansa for the National Freedom Front, DVD Tilakasiri for the Democratic Leftist Front, MP Udaya Gammampila for the Pivithuru Helawurumaya, G. Veera Singha for the Communist Party of Sri Lanka, and Govinda Kumaratunga for the Yuthukama National Organisation signed the agreement. Furthermore, MP Chanajaya Sumana signed the agreement on behalf of the Independent MPs Forum, and entrepreneur Dilit Jayavira signed the agreement as the leader of the Maldivian Janata Paksha. A 10-point agreement was inked under the theme Ekwanangwan Ratak, Satutu Pirunu Dayak, which loosely translates to a country that rises united, a happy nation. Venerable Professor Madhagoda Abhayatissa Thero, former Chief Justice Sarathen Silva, former Minister D.W. Gunasekara, former Governor Anura and several others also attended the event.
Ranil Wickramasinghe, along with the Rajapaksas, are using the same policies that were presented by us as means to address this crisis, while claiming that they will now lead us out of it. Meanwhile, Sajith Premadasa's political movement claims to offer an alternative, yet they too seem to be following a similar program. On the other hand, the Jatika Jana Balavege claims they will cross the remaining part of the Vine Bridge. There are also comments being made that the sale of national assets needs to be done in a more transparent manner by following a tender process. There appears to be mass confusion, and that is why we decided to discuss how we can solve this issue. The political force formed today will offer a solution. We have understood the need to form a new political program to take forward this country's heritage. Are we ready to betray the nation? We must take the step to defeat the conspiratorial efforts that are against protecting the nation. Today we inked a 10-point agreement. Within a month, we will introduce our strategic program to the people. We are ready to engage with the public on this program. We made mistakes, but that does not mean we should keep on cursing the darkness. Let us light a lamp instead of continuing to criticize. Let us engage in finding solutions.
විසඳුම් ගැන සංවාදය අපි අදින් ආරම්භ කරමු.
අද මේ ඉන්න නායකයෝ දිහා කල්පනා කරලා බලන්න.
Take a look at the leaders that we have. There are some who remained in the same camp for around 2 decades, and those who stood by the national camp are looking at others in a different manner. These are also groups that moved around.
ගැන කල්පනා කරලා බලන්න. සික්සැක් ක්‍රමයට හිට මෙහෙට ගිය අය අයියෝ.
දක්ෂිණාංශික ලිබරල් වාදයේ අද ඉන්න ප්‍රධාන නියෝජිතයා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්මයා. ඒ දක්ෂිණා
Ranil Wickremesinghe is the key representative of the right-wing liberals. This right-wing liberalism brings forward a legislation of reconciliation and to penalize the military. The left-wing liberals are mum about it. The right-wing liberals, Ranil Wickremesinghe and the so-called father of modern Sri Lanka, claim to have the 13th Amendment fully introduced. Professor Harini Amarasuriya from the left-wing liberals says they will support it. This land is now calling for a new political alternative, that is, to oppose these groups. Today, we have launched that movement, and this is a historic move.
හිඳුවන සර්වජන බලය බලගන්වන ඒ ඓතිහාසික පියවරයි අද මේ අපි පටන් ගත්තේ.
මම දැන්ට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සිටින පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් 193 දෙනෙක් හම්බ වෙලා තියෙනවා. මං එයින් 53 දෙනෙක් එක්ක
I have met with around 193 MPs in Parliament. I held close discussions with around 53 of them. As my friend Channa Jayasumana mentioned, many more will join us. Though they are not here for various other reasons, there is one thing that is very famous about all of them. The people need to know this. The local politician who visited your village wedding and funeral is no longer in Colombo. That politician is not the politician who represents you. The person from the village who was elected to the parliament is now raising his hand in favor of various legislation that is detrimental to the country for the sake of benefits. They are in agreement with efforts that betray the nation. This is disappointing. The 6.9 million voters believed that a parliament that represents them would be created with a 2/3 majority. We are disgusted with what transpired. The innocent people of Sri Lanka have rejected politics. At this very decisive moment, we need to unite, casting aside all differences.
යන මේ තීරණාත්මක මොහොතේදී ඔබ සියලු දෙනා සියලු වාද ભેද වලින් තොරව අපි එකතු වෙන්නට ඕන.
The Global Sri Lankan Forum also presented a new agreement with the participation of a group including Venerable Professor Madagoda Abetisa Thero, who was also present at the signing of the agreement between parties including Dilith Jayavira. The agreement by the Global Sri Lankan Forum was named One Agenda for the Nation. Venerable Professor Induragare Dhammaratana Thero, Venerable Professor Madagoda Abetisa Thero, Dr. Gunadas Amarasekara, Senior Attorney Kalyananda Thiranagama, Executive Director of the Global Sri Lankan Forum, Shamendra Wickremarachi, and Permanent Representative to Sri Lanka of the Global Sri Lankan Forum, Nuwan Bellantudawa, signed the agreement.
Some politicians like Basil Rajapaksa thought they created the people's power themselves, or that it was a front they established. That is not the case. The people rallied together for a national cause at the time. The same 6.9 million and more are today observing the disaster the country is heading towards. This government was established by people who came forward for a national cause. After that government came into power, there was a power transfer of some sort, and it turned to the current state. Through that, if everything is being sold and we are being subject to Indian expansionism and the public representatives who entered parliament with the public mandate cannot oppose it, the people should work to kick them out of politics.
Parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa, speaking in Thalawa, Anuradhapura, pointed out that the downfall of the Rajapaksa governments occurred as a result of internal conspiracies.
We have witnessed numerous conspiracies aimed at toppling the governments we established. The government led by Mahinda Rajapaksa was brought down in 2015 due to an internal conspiracy. International forces and terrorist organizations collaborated to overthrow it, leading to the formation of the Good Governance government. At that time, Mahinda Rajapaksa had made this country the fastest developing nation in Asia with an economic growth rate exceeding 6%. However, by the time Gotabaya Rajapaksa assumed power, the growth rate had plummeted to less than 2.5%. Despite the initial success, both internal and external conspiracies once again targeted the government. False claims about dwindling oil supplies were spread by our own people, eventually causing fuel shortages and power cuts.
Leader of the opposition, Sajith says the era where elections were won through dividing the people has come to an end. He expressed the following views in Gomarang Kadawala yesterday.
Sinhala and Tamil votes were collected, promoting racism. The 4.1 million school students at 10,010 government schools are abandoned. I am not here today to garner votes by promoting racial sentiments or by separating you by religion, race, culture, creed or party. I am here to speak the bitter truth. A JICA project had been conceptualized centering the Yarnoya to provide drinking water, but it has been halted. Many foreign projects are being halted at present because ministers go and demand kickbacks. A certain Japanese company completely stopped operations in Sri Lanka. We will usher in an era where fraud, corruption and thievery is eradicated. An era where corrupt individuals and thieves are brought before the law. And finally, an era where stolen national assets are recovered.
Is there an ongoing discussion between Nimal Lanka and Basil Rajapaksa? During today's press conference hosted by the Pudujana Peramuna, journalists posed questions.
Diri satiyedi Basil Rajapaksa mahatmaya saha Nimal Lanka mahatmaya අතර සාකච්ඡාවක් පැවැත්වීමට නියමිතයි කියලා. ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඔබතුමා මොකක්ද කියන්නේ?
නැහැ නිමල් ලංකා කියන්නේ අපේ පක්ෂයේ හිටපු අදටත් පොහොට්ටුවෙන් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව නියෝජනය කරන ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ යටතේ පොහොට්ටුව යටතේ ඡන්දෙ ඉල්ලලා පත්වෙච්ච മന്ത്രിවරයෙක් හැටියට. ඒ වගේම බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා සමග අපි දන්නවා දේශපාලනයේ ඔබට ගිය හිතවත්කමක් ලිමල් සමහත්මයාගේ හැමදාම තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි ඒක සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඒ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාට නිමල් ලංකා මැතිතුමාටත් සාකච්ඡා කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් කිසිදු බාධකයක් අවහිරයක් නැහැ. ඉතින් ඔවුන් සාකච්ඡා කරා. ඒක සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපේ කිසිම විශේෂ කාරණයක් විශේෂිතත්වයක් නැහැ.
දැන් පක්ෂයක් විදියට ඉදිරියට යන බව ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. හැබැයි ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකයෙක් නැහැනේ.
ඊළඟ මැතිවරණයේ අවස්ථාවේදී මේ රටට සුදුසුම අපේක්ෂකය අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඒක
දැන් ඒ ඉන්න අපේක්ෂකයෝ කිහිප දෙනා අතරේ අර්බුදයක්ද තියෙන්නේ කොහොම කියන්නේ ලොකු තරංගයක්ද සටනක්
නෑ අර්බුදයකුත් නෑ සටනකුත් නෑ උන් සියලු දෙනා පක්ෂය සමග ඊටාම එකඟතාවයෙන් කටයුතු කරනවා. ඉතින් අපි අවශ්‍ය අවස්ථාවේදී පක්ෂය තීන්දුව කරාම රට ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ අපේ පක්ෂ ප්‍රතිපත්ති මේ රට තුළ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න පුළුවන් අපේක්ෂකයව අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඉන් ඉදිරියට මේ රටට සුදුසුම නායකයා තමයි අපි ඉදිරිපත්. ඒක පක්ෂයක් හැටියට අපි වගකීමෙන් කියනවා.
ඒ කියන්නේ මේ රනිල් මහත්තයාට එහෙම එකක් නැද්ද?
නෑ මම එහෙම දෙයක් කිව්වේ නැහැ. මම කිව්වේ අපි ඒ සඳහා හොඳම කෙනා පත් කරගන්න.
රනිල් මහත්තයා හොඳයි කියලා හිතෙන්නේ නැද්ද?
රනිල් මහත්තයාත් හොඳ ඇති, තවත් අයත් හොඳ ඇති. අපි පක්ෂය හැටියට අපි හොඳම කෙනාව ඉදිරිපත්.
During the weekend, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe toured Jaffna, Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu and Vavuniya. The President attended multiple events during his visit, and individuals representing the Ilangai Tamil Arasu Katchi or ITAC, EPDP, Plot, Telo, Tamil Makkal Thesiya Kootani and other political groups in the north of the country were also present. The Tamil National People's Front, led by Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam, is the only political faction from the north that did not take part in these events. President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday distributed 700 freehold land deeds across 4 divisional secretariats in the Vavuniya district, concluding his tour to the north. State Minister Khader Mastan, MP K. Thilipan and other political representatives were present for the event.
You have no desire to sell the property that belonged to you for over 2 generations. You need to develop it and give it to your children. Most of these lands have agricultural use. Therefore, we need to develop agriculture. Within the agricultural modernization program, modern farming techniques will be introduced to rural areas within the next 3 years, enabling individuals to enhance their income through increased production facilitated by modern technology. We need to strengthen the President to carry out this program with a more developed program next year, where the issues including land rights can be solved. We express our gratitude to the President for his efforts in advancing development projects in the north. Granting land rights to the people brings significant relief to them. With the provision of free land deeds for 2 million individuals, every resident in Vanni will have access to land. Additionally, we anticipate that he will address the various challenges faced by its residents.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe inaugurated the newly built cardiology and nephrology units at the Vavuniya District General Hospital yesterday. The project commenced in 2019 during President Wickremesinghe's tenure as Prime Minister. During a press conference today, Parliamentarian President's Counsel M.A. Sumandiran revealed plans for the nomination of a Tamil common candidate in the upcoming presidential election. The discussion surrounding this candidate will commence on the 9th of June.
Civil organizations and newspaper editors have requested from me to discuss the nomination of a Tamil common candidate. I held talks with them several days ago. We decided to extensively discuss the matter on the 9th of June. We will be able to exchange views on the matter. We can show how we can democratically discuss these matters while also respecting the views of others. So, after I speak to the media, Suresh Premachandran would address the media and say something different. I believe that we should also come to a common platform and exchange views.
Will it be a general election, a presidential election, or a referendum? MP Professor G.L. Pieris expressed views on this today.
If the government and president wants to, the general election can be held first and the presidential election can be held before the 18th of October. However, the election dates of the presidential election is beyond the control of the President and Parliament. The Constitution and relevant laws clearly state the dates when the election should be held. That is definite, and neither the President nor Parliament have flexibility or say in it. The election must be held within the relevant dates this year, between the 17th of September and the 17th of October. A surprising discussion has come up during the past 3 to 4 days. Several factions have suggested to hold a referendum to extend the incumbent president's official term by another 5 years. Our legal framework does not include any provisions for this. The unlikely debate.
The political arena in Sri Lanka is currently abuzz with discussions surrounding a potential debate between SJB leader Sajith Premadasa and NPP leader Anura Disanayake. However, will this debate actually go ahead?
MP Nalin Bandara, who coordinated the debate for the SJB faction, addressed a letter to Nalin Jayatissa of the National People's Power again today. Nalin Bandara expressed concern about the efforts made by Anura Disanayake's factions to avoid the Economic Committee debate. The communication adds that when called for an Economic Committee debate, the NPP did not come forward to it. It added that the NPP's proposal for a leadership debate was already accepted by the SJB. MP Bandara questioned Jayatissa's frequent introduction of various debate proposals without providing a clear rationale. MP Bandara reaffirmed his party's stance, prioritizing the economic debate before engaging in leadership discussions. Anura Disanayake's side has confirmed a readiness for the leaders' debate on the 6th of July from among the 5 days proposed by Sajith Premadasa's faction.
Sajith Premadasa's faction had proposed 5 dates. We are ready to hold the leaders' debate between Sajith Premadasa and Anura Disanayake on the 6th. We hope he will come forward.
Will it be a debate between Anura and Sajith? Or will it be a debate between the economic councils? Or will this debate move to a position where it is unlikely to happen?
While the political stage continues to be engulfed with new developments each passing day, the concerns and woes of state employees are intensifying. Strikes, demonstrations and severe trade union action. Here is the latest from that front.
Gram Niladari officers are currently engaged in a work to rule campaign citing multiple demands. Their demands include establishing a service minute, creating a unique salary structure and increasing bonuses related to the service.
We joined a meeting with the Ministry Secretary on the 20th. That is when we realized how flawed the service minute was. The document relayed to the Public Service Commission is not what we demanded. We very clearly understood that the administrative officers have pulled a fast one on us. We do not like the document which was sent to the Public Service Commission. We wish to inform the government to refrain from approving it. Instead, make amendments to it and then approve it. If the Public Service Commission does not pass what we initially agreed upon following discussions held with the Gram Niladari unions, we will turn to extreme measures. The work to rule action will be intensified and we will step away from our duties. We will give them 1 week. We have a very serious suspicion as to whether this is being done to cause a delay in the elections by forcing Gram Niladari officers to strike.
The strike launched by university non-academic staff based on several demands including salaries entered its 26th day today. Non-academic staff attached to several universities engaged in protests in line with the trade union action. A protest took place opposite the Rajapaksa University. Non-academic staff are demanding solutions for several issues, including the payment of the agreed monthly allowance and the provision of the 15% salary cut dating back to 2016.
We launched the protest movement to urge the chairman of the University Grants Commission to look at the state of the education sector today and intervene to resolve this issue by providing a favourable solution and resume activities at universities without delaying this any further.
Protests were also held opposite the Ruhuna, Uvavellasa and Northwestern universities and the Karapitiya Faculty of Medicine today. The National Collective Against Teachers and Principals Salary Anomalies said that it will engage in a trade union action tomorrow against the failure to solve their issues.
On behalf of all the school teachers in Sri Lanka, we will be pressuring the President's Secretary and the Education Secretary through 100,000 WhatsApp messages to give the teachers and the principals a fair salary. Do justice for the teachers and the principals of this country. If the government does not respond to this request, we will be ready to take action regarding it.
Newsfirst with the people.
Valuable Finance was awarded the best finance company for the 3rd consecutive year.
Sri Lankan security forces suspect that an individual by the name of Osman Gerard acted as a handler of the 4 Sri Lankan men who were arrested in India for suspected links with ISIS. Sri Lanka police recently announced a cash award of 2 million rupees for any credible information on the whereabouts of the wanted suspect.
Sri Lanka police revealed that the wanted suspect, Osman Gerard, often changes his appearances, and these are some of his appearances the detectives suspect he may be using now. The 46-year-old man is a resident of Dematagoda. On the 20th of May, the anti-terrorist squad of Gujarat apprehended 4 Sri Lankans at Ahmedabad airport, alleging their affiliation with ISIS. As investigations unfold, significant facts have come to light through the efforts of Sri Lankan security forces. Among the arrested individuals, Muhammad Nusrat emerges as a businessman involved in importing telecommunication devices and electrical equipment from countries such as Singapore, Malaysia and Dubai. Nusrat operated within Colombo where he sold these imported goods. Prior to this recent arrest, Nusrat faced legal trouble in Colombo, and on the 16th of September 2020, he was taken into custody on charges related to heroin possession and spent time in remand prison. 27-year-old Muhammad Nafran, who was also arrested, has been identified as the son of the first wife of Nias Naufar, aka Potta Naufar, the notorious underworld criminal who was sentenced to death for the killing of High Court Judge Sarath Ambepitiya. Nafran's early entrepreneurial endeavours involved bringing clothing material and chocolates from countries such as India and Dubai. He commenced this business venture at the age of 16, working alongside his mother. However, in 2017, Nafran was arrested by the Sri Lanka police on charges related to the National Gem and Jewellery Authority Act. The other two Sri Lankans are 35-year-old Muhammad Faris from Maligawatta, Colombo, and 43-year-old Muhammad Rashdeen from Colombo 13. Muhammad Faris had worked as a Naatami or cart puller in Petta and was arrested by the Colombo Crimes Division on the 11th of March 2023 and 1st of November the same year. On the 21st of May, his close associate Hamid Amir was arrested by the Terrorist Investigations Division. Muhammad Faris had left for Chennai, India on the 19th of May. The other suspect is Muhammad Rashdeen, a three-wheeler driver. Security forces suspect that he is linked to trafficking crystal meth or ice. On the 16th of September 2022, Rashdeen was arrested by the foreshore police and was later released on bail. India's The Hindu reported that the four Sri Lankans who were arrested belong to the National Tawhid Jamaat organization. Indian media also reported that the arrested men wanted to quote-unquote teach a lesson to Jews, Christians and the members of the BJP and RSS. Indian police said the four men had been in touch with a man named Abu in Pakistan through social media, and Abu encouraged them to carry out a terror attack in India.
President's Counsel Sanjeev Jayawardena informed the Supreme Court that the underlying motive of the bill to revise the Telecommunications Regulatory Act is to curtail the people's right to expression during a future election and also to crack down on the media by creating a police state. He made this observation when 4 separate petitions challenging the constitutionality of the legislation were taken up for examination.
The petitions challenging the constitutionality of the bill to revise the Telecommunications Regulatory Act were taken up for examination in the presence of Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya and Justices Murdu Fernando and Janak De Silva. President's Counsel Sanjeev Jayawardena told the Supreme Court that the certain provisions of the bill to revise the Telecommunications Regulatory Act allow the TRC to remove the license given to a media institution at any given time and can also directly control the media. He argued that the bill in its entirety is against the fundamentals of democracy and violates the rights of the people. He further argued that the media, which is the fourth state, must be protected and should not be subject to unnecessary curtailment. President's Counsel Sanjeev Jayawardena made submissions in court on behalf of MTV Channel Private Limited. The petitions will be taken up for examination again tomorrow.
On the 1st of May 2024, Sri Lanka announced an increase to the wages of country's estate sector. However, it's been 27 days since the announcement and yet there appears to be no increase in the wages.
It was May Day 2024 when an announcement, dubbed by some as historic, was made in the presence of the estate workers in the country. President Ranil Wickremesinghe announced an increase in the daily wage of plantation workers to 1,700 rupees. On the same day, issuing a gazette, the Commissioner General of Labour said that the total daily payment for workers in the tea growing and manufacturing trade includes a daily wage of 1,350 rupees and a daily special allowance of 350 rupees. The Gazette noted that the daily wage includes the daily budgetary relief allowance and should be applied for the payment of EPF and ETF. As the proposed wage increase was delayed, Minister of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development, Jeevan Thondaman, affirmed that the government is ready to face any situation if the estate companies take court action against the government's decision to increase the wages of the estate workers' community. In a bold move, Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment, Manushananya Kara, said that the plantations that do not pay their workers the newly stipulated minimum wage of 1,700 rupees will be reacquired by the government. The minister said that the government's decision to raise the wages of plantation workers must be implemented by all plantation employers from next month. The minister said President Wickremesinghe has made the decision in the cabinet to prepare a bill to take over the estate companies that do not implement the minimum wage. Member of the Planters Association of Ceylon claimed that the decision to increase wages arbitrarily is a serious setback to the industry.
As you are aware, 95% of Sri Lanka's tea is exported. abroad. We don't consume it. So we compete in the global markets. 25% of the production comes from large companies or regional plantation companies. 75% comes from the tea smallholders. So regional plantation companies employ about 115,000 people, although we care for about 1 million people in the United States. Smallholder sector has about 500,000 operators, and they have about 1.5 million. So put together, it's about 2.5 million people who are dependent on the tea industry. So every kilo we export abroad, at the auction level, 95% of the money is circulated within Sri Lanka. Of the 95% that is retained in Sri Lanka, by design or default, 70% goes back to the operators on the ground. So basically, this is a very labor-intensive industry, and any progress or any diminution of the industry will have a direct impact on about 2.5 million people of our country. If you look at the tea economies, we pay the highest wages in the world for the lowest productivity. As a result of that, our cost of production is really high, almost double that of our competing countries. And the recent decision by the government, unilateral decision to increase wages arbitrarily without any relationship to the market, the output or the current condition, is a serious setback to the industry. We as the plantation sector management is not averse to wage increases, but what we have been saying is link wages to productivity so that the industry is economically sustainable. Already our industry is crippled, as you all are aware, because the fertilizer costs, energy costs and other input costs. So we are almost at break-even level right now. We can't control the price that is determined by the global supply and demand. So we as a producer has to take whatever price that is given at the auction, and within that price we have to manage our costs. So we have consistently told the powers be that we are supporting a wage that is a productivity based wage. This 150 attendance based wage is not a way to go forward. So in spite of our repeated requests, our proposals to give a very good wage in a productivity based wage, for some reason the government or the state or the authorities have not heeded our call. We have many calls from our suppliers and they are not sure of the supply, and already we are losing confirmed orders because they know that if this wage increase comes, which is unaffordable, naturally the plantation companies or the people who manage plantations will have to cut down. If the industry is affected, as I mentioned earlier, about 2.5 million people are affected. Unfortunately, the workers for whom they think that will benefit will be the victims of a diminution of the industry.
The Department of Meteorology has advised naval and fishing communities to avoid setting out to sea.
The Met Department has advised the naval and fishing communities to avoid sailing in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea until further notice. It issued an announcement about strong winds and rough seas. The Met Department said that the wind speed could increase to 80 km per hour in those sea areas. The Met Department also said that very strong winds of about 60 to 70 km per hour are likely to continue further over the sea areas around the island.
In more news, Sri Lanka Air Force pilots stationed in the Central African Republic as part of the United Nations peacekeeping force performed a critical casualty evacuation mission last week.
The Sri Lanka Aviation Unit for MINUSCA, stationed in Bria in the Central African Republic, was tasked with undertaking an early dawn casualty evacuation mission, or CASEVAC, on the 20th of May 2024. A Mi-17 UNO 324P was designated to carry out the challenging CASEVAC operation. The mission was carried out to evacuate 3 UN members who met with a vehicle accident in a remote location in the Rafai area.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Maldives has announced that it is discussing with Sri Lankan counterparts to facilitate a smooth transition for Maldivian travellers in light of Sri Lanka's new e-visa system.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Maldives said that it is engaged in discussions with Sri Lankan counterparts to ensure a smooth transition for Maldivian travellers following the announcement of a new e-visa system in Sri Lanka. The current procedure allows Maldivians to obtain a free 30-day tourist visa upon arrival in Sri Lanka. For stays exceeding 30 days, Maldivians can apply for a free 6-month visa online at www.srilankaevisa.lk. This visa incurs an administrative fee. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Maldives said it is committed to establishing a visa process that reflects the current visa agreement between the Maldives and Sri Lanka and ensures reciprocity for Maldivian travellers. Discussions with Sri Lankan authorities are ongoing to address any remaining concerns. At the same time, the Sri Lanka Maldives Business Council, in a letter to Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas, has requested not to charge the visa fee from Maldivians and instead issue a 30-day visa without any charges to maintain the bilateral friendship and business relationship without any issues.
As the 2024 edition of the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup draws ever so close, here is another episode of the Road to World Cup segment.
The ICC T20 World Cup.
T20 World Cup winning former India captain MS Dhoni is the record holder of the most number of dismissals by a wicket-keeper in the tournament. His 32 dismissals comprise of 21 catches and 11 stumpings. His 21 catches as the designated wicket-keeper are also the most in men's T20 World Cups, while Pakistan's Kamran Akmal, who sits right behind Dhoni with 30 dismissals, holds the record for most number of stumpings. West Indies' Dinesh Ramdin is at the third place on the list with 27 dismissals.
6 days more.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.